Billy Napier being on the hot seat is really going to hurt the Gators, and it's going to help the Florida State Seminoles.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And thank you for stopping in to talk some Noles with me. Today's show is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights. Moving the game forward, Mazda, move and be moved. Florida State needs to make sure that they do not lose Tony White. He's off to an incredible start from the Noles. The defensive coordinator is probably going to get a lot of offers. We're going to talk about that at the end of the show because he is a pivotal part of the Seminoles football program. In the second segment, we're going to talk about the Florida State recruiting situation. It's a very prosperous one. They have to be very selective, though. Will the Noles pick the right players? Will they pick off some guys from other schools? We're going to talk about some elite recruits, including where Norvell was today. And also, we're going to talk about the most important thing right now. Billy Napier's tenure at UF is probably up. Florida State, speaking of recruiting, should be able to benefit not only when they play the Gators later this year, because how much are they going to be bought in to being part of the Florida program when that game comes around on November 29th, but Florida State has a chance to kind of get some of those recruits, not only ones that are still left on the trail, but commitments at UF. For me, I think that's going to be a lot of fun, and I know Jeremy Rock and Noel, who's going to join me for this podcast, enjoys that as well. Jeremy, how you doing, sir?
Good. How you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's jump right in with the Billy Napier situation. What is your take? Well, for those that don't know, here's Florida's next 4 games with a bye in the middle. They go to Baton Rouge to play LSU this weekend. They go to Miami the weekend after. And then they get a bye. But then they host the Texas Longhorns in Arch Manning. And then they play another Texas team, but this time in Aggieland. College Station, Gig'em, Texas A&M hosts Florida. That is their next 4. Bro, I'm no Florida fan, but the SEC did them no favors. And they're going to be under scrutiny because their fans are just tired of it anyway. Since that 2020 season, Florida's just not been relevant.
No.
They just haven't. They haven't been relevant at all. And again, I know this Florida State podcast, but that should never be the case. For more than every now and then you have an off year, something goes wrong.
Right.
They've had 4 bad years in a row. Florida. That's crazy.
Honestly, since Meyer, they really haven't been in the mix.
Yeah, they've been up and down, but at least in 2020, they had a pretty good year.
True. That was a COVID year, so it was a weird year.
Yeah, it was. But after that, they fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
So what is your take, Jeremy? Do you think they will can him quick? Like if they go 1-3 in this next 4-game stretch, and again, LSU, Miami, Texas A&M, that is not easy. Do you think they'll can him before the Georgia game, or they'll wait to the end of the year because they're worried about kids funneling into the portal if they go that route?
I think before the Georgia game. Listen, if we were 98% sure after the other day, you're 100 once the AD released that statement. Once they release the statement, it's basically code for he's done. Just be patient. That's what that was. And the fact that Strickland got a new deal and he's basically been given the green light to do what he needs to do, and he bought himself time with the basketball title.
Yeah, that helped. But, in the state of Florida, I heard Bud Elliott mention this the other day on the Cover 3 podcast, and he's right. I know Bud, and he likes to pull jokes and all that, but he said, in the state of Florida, there's football, there's spring football, and there's recruiting. Those are the 3 priority sports. And he goes, winning basketball is nice, but they don't care about that. They have to win at Florida on the football field. And he's right. It would be the same thing at Florida State. If they just won the national title in basketball, you celebrate it, but you're never happy unless football is winning. That's just the way Florida State is, too. They're mirror images.
Their fans aren't chanting fire Napier leaving the game the other day if they're so happy about a basketball title.
That's exactly right. Very well said.
Thank you. So I think it's a done deal. It's just a matter of when. I think in this day and age, it's better to wait because you want Napier not only to keep the recruits from high school, you want him to keep the current roster happy, so they want to stay. If they get rid of him early, an interim coach is going to have a much harder time keeping a lot of kids out of the portal for the new coach. So That's something I'm keeping an eye on, because there were some recruits we were very close in a battle with.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if 2 or 3 kids on the current Florida roster ended up playing for the Florida State Seminoles somewhere down the road. Ironically, Richie Leonard did that anyway, but he's one of the starters from the Noles up front now. But this is a different scenario. He left on his own accord.
Correct.
If Billy Napier is fired, I would say there's a more than 50% chance that at least one of the guys on the current roster for the Gators ends up playing for the Florida State Seminoles.
Yeah.
That's just my take. Everybody can have their own, but that's how I see it. Anyway, with that, there's a couple of things that I want to talk about. Number one, before I get any further into recruiting, Florida State always ends the year with the Gators. Okay, well, this year it's in Gainesville, and that's obviously a crazy atmosphere, one of the toughest places to play. But something I brought up all the way from the spring and even back in the winter through when I talked about the schedule, FSU originally, keyword originally, got a hosing because they played NC State on the road to end the ACC slate, and then they go to Gainesville the next weekend, and it's a Friday night game at NC State. So you get a short week in Raleigh, but NC State's okay. By the way, as we get ready to record this, I'm recording this Thursday afternoon for Friday morning. We don't know the score to NC State. I'm going to watch every bit of that game, start studying them. I know C.J. Bailey from his time in high school, great kid, quarterback at NC State, good guy. Played at Chaminade Madonna. He was the quarterback for Jeremiah Smith, JoJo Trader, and a whole bunch of guys. If they're not better than – I don't think NC State's that good defensively. Offensively, I think they can score. But I don't know if he's going to be able to handle Tony White's defense. But I think that game's a little easier. But it's – for what – you can explain this to me if you want. Why does Florida State stink when they go to NC State? No matter who their quarterback is, no matter the year, they hardly ever play well up there. What is the deal with that?
Well, keep in mind, for a long, long time, there were only 1 or 2 ACC schools that really provided a tough road environment for us. NC State is being one of them, and Clemson. Virginia at times, but a lot of times they're not. That was it. I mean, I remember the 96 year, 3 teams made their home game against us a neutral site because they just didn't care. So that's always just been a house of horror for us, that place, for some reason. It's a tough place to play. The fans are right on top of you.
Sure.
So I've had former players tell me, man, that place is not fun to play. I mean, they call it the Whiz Palace for a reason, I guess. So yeah, it's just been one of those places, and they get up for Florida State. That they could be. It doesn't matter what their record is. If Florida State comes to town, you're going to get your A game from that team and their fans.
Yeah, I would agree. All right. But anyway, I think Florida State, while NC State will not be an easy game, and we don't know how the rest of the season is going to go before you get to the 11th ball game, I think they're slightly down. But my concern was not only do you got to play a tough opponent on a weird day at night in a stadium you never play well. This is just the nature of young men. You can tell them you're going to cut their hands off. What game are they really looking forward to? Florida or NC State?
100%.
Florida. So if Florida stinks, I'm kind of hoping in a way that NC State's better than I think. And that's why I want to watch the game tonight. So they'll be focused on that. Because they're at the end. Going into the NC State game, at worst, I expect Florida State to be somewhere in the, 7-3 range. Like that should be bottom end. Like total bottom end. I don't think that's going to happen. It would have to be injuries, etc. They could be 9-1. It wouldn't surprise me. ACC schedule. ACC is bad. I'm getting ready to do another podcast, just like an overview on the Portal podcast about how bad the ACC is after the top 3. It is a crater. So if they can beat NC State at the end of the year and make a statement, and thank you, Billy, for this, and be more focused on that game, and they go in there a place, like you said, a house of horrors. That's a great way to put it. Yeah. Florida State benefits massively. Last comment here on the recruiting side of this. I don't know when it will happen. Again, I was texting with somebody earlier about this. My guy said, give it a couple of weeks, but he goes, and I won't mention names. There's a few guys we expect, but there are always guys that funnel out. And I wrote down a list of guys that, just some of them, for those who don't know. Hezzy Kent, big-time tight end / offensive lineman out of Georgia. They recruited Carson Baker, big-time running back out of Georgia, and Caden Hall, a kid from the Pensacola area, all committed to the Gators that I guarantee you, they would take a phone call and a commitment from whenever. Those are really good football players. That's an important part. But right now they're committed to the Gators, and it just makes it really intriguing.
So, you also have to keep in mind the DJ Lagway effect here.
If he decided to leave,
right? If he's going to hit the portal and take his red shirt, that's worst case scenario for them, more than firing Billy. So they have to keep him happy. In the old days, they didn't have that problem. If DJ says, I'm done, I'm going to take a red shirt and figure out my options, that's worst case scenario. They will keep Billy to keep DJ and then deal with the repercussions after the year or a couple of weeks before the FSU game.
I don't disagree.
That's plenty of time for DJ to make a decision about his future. He doesn't have that time if they wait till week 10 or 11.
That's why Florida fans need them to win at least one of the next two games, minimum, between the LSU and again, it's an incredibly difficult slate, but we'll see. When we come back, I want to switch over specifically to recruiting. Some of the players I just mentioned, overview. Florida State's got a chance to be, for the first time, in the top 10 of the recruiting rankings. It has been a long, long time. But when you're winning, Jeremy, as I know you understand, getting some of those elite recruits at the end is a heck of a lot easier than what we saw for most of this past 5 years. That is next here on Locked On Seminoles. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. And that's why we are here today, because Mazda's confidence, it's been delivered with every ride, with more than anybody else, with top safety picks across the industry as of August 2025. And the footwork into the breath work, athletes sweat all the details, but Mazda brings this same intention to how they craft every single model. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I am Brian Smith, longtime recruiting analyst, and this is my buddy Rock and Roll Jeremy joining, longtime FSU fan. Jeremy, you're from my era. We're very similar age. I'm in my early 50s. Look, Florida State football, it was a joke back in the day when I first got in the recruiting industry in the late 90s. They'd have like somewhere between the 5th and the 10th recruiting class, but they would backload their visits. Right. It was a different era. Everybody signed in February, and they closed stronger than anybody. They'd have a good season. This is who we are. This is what we do. And they were consistent. They always won the late recruiting battles. Well, with the stuff we just talked about with Napier, they may get an extra cherry on top. That's the good news. But the bread and butter here, the basic dinner table stuff, they need to close on a few more things with this class with a caveat. This is my take, and I just want yours as well. Yep. These are the notes that I wrote down. Definitely need another offensive tackle in this class. They just need more in general. Premium position. It's a spot Florida State needs to get away from the portal, et cetera, et cetera. That's an easy one. Defensive tackle, especially big body guys, never want to turn away from that. Obviously, it's the hardest spot because there's only so many of them. And then versatile skill guys, especially somebody if they could find a bigger receiver. Looking at the roster in Florida State, what was it they played? I don't know if you saw that note on X. They played 17 freshmen the other day. It's insane. They play them, so I don't think it'll be hard to recruit them. But outside of, again, offensive tackle, defensive tackle, and just really good skill players that are versatile, do you disagree with any of that? And would you add on to anything that you think Florida State needs in the current recruiting class already with what they have?
No, not at all. You couldn't have said it better, because Mike has not had a stud class at either one of those positions you've named. And two, those are positions that you don't see pop up in the portal. So you just don't see that. So for whatever reason, so that's something you have to land. Yes. The other ones you can make work with the portal, with high school, with what you have. We saw the other day, Gus can really just give him some ingredients and he can make it special. So yes, we have, and Mike has never, I think of Jimbo Fisher's time at Florida State. And sorry if I'm backtracking. We could talk about getting Jameis and how great that was. And yeah, that was great. I think of the defensive line class, Eddie Goldman, Mario Edwards, Timmy Jernigan. That's what made the difference in this team and took us to higher levels. 5 stars, studs. Mike has never had that.
Yeah,
that's something he needs to make his imprint on.
Yeah, that Florida State team in 2013 wasn't necessarily super deep on the D-line, but the top end was ridiculous.
Oh, all NFL guys.
You know what I mean? That's the difference. Like, you can't put a price tag on what that's going to bring for your program. So, yeah, they want a ring. I mean, they made
And those are the guys who keep opposing coaches up at night.
100%, because which one do you single block in a 3rd and 1 or something? It's good luck. You need 13 guys to block 11 if you have defensive linemen like that. So again, I agree. For me, the other key part here with Florida State's recruiting class, and this is something that I don't think Gus and Mike, et cetera, will do, but I just want to state it for the record. I actually mentioned this the other day. You have to be very selective. That phone is going to ring a lot. It's probably already been ringing. Guys that you were still involved with, all of a sudden are calling you. Why? Because you bludgeoned Bama and you bludgeoned East Texas A&M. The program has momentum. The media loves you again. Kids in today's world, I'm sorry, this is just true, especially in the state of Florida. Yes, I'm looking at the state of Florida. It's the worst. These kids are here now, gone tomorrow. They are whatever's the hottest thing. You can't just take commitments to take them, because from what I've researched and from talking to people face-to-face, et cetera, they're way ahead on the 27 class. And here's the good news with that. Tony White, Gus Malzahn, Tim Harris Jr., who, by the way, is a very good recruiter. All the guys they brought in general, pot roast, et cetera, all those guys have done a good job recruiting. They're going to have a full year to recruit those kids. You're going to hit on a higher number of those kids you were just talking about, the Timmy Jernigan kind of guys. That's the kind of thing. So I would rather save the scholarship for him instead of a high 3-star kid.
Right. And those guys who are seniors now were juniors in our 2-10 season. So we have a lot of ground to make up there.
That's hard, man.
It's very hard. And those kids, I'm sure, were a wait and see approach. They like what they see, but they've still been recruited harder by these schools while we were in coaching changes. So I think it's this junior class this year that we really have to focus on.
I would agree with that. So again, I think that's pivotal. And I know they understand that. But sometimes when those guys call and are excited about it and want to be a part of your program, you can make the wrong decision. They have to be patient and wait for the big fish at the end. And let me be very clear. It is, as goofy as this sounds, just hear it out. It is probably better if they miss a bunch on signing day and come up short. And here's why. Bowden used to do the same thing. Sometimes they didn't always get the guys they wanted. Most of the time they won because he was an incredible closer. Oh. But if you're not going for the big fish at the very, very end, you're not getting the players that can beat Georgia, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Texas, USC in the playoff anyway. So who cares?
I agree.
Getting the recruits is one thing to go to a bowl game, but Florida State's not here to go to bowl games.
Right. And with the portal, correct. And with the portal, you can supplement now. So
exactly.
Let's just focus on that instead of taking the plan Bs and the plan Cs of the world. And Mike, and I hope with this coaching staff, this would be a great opportunity for him to show how much he's learned, because he's had a chance before with Mullen fired and Manny Diaz fired. He did not capitalize them. Yeah, now's a chance to learn from past mistakes, and I hope he doesn't get butthurt from, man, I've had some embarrassing moments on signing day with Travis Hunter, with KJ Bolden. I need to get some kid just to get some kid this year to clean my name up a little. I don't think so. I just hope, man, have a really good class this year and go all in for 27.
Yeah, I agree. So again, patience is okay, and if you miss at the end, that's okay. You got to go after the big fish. Regardless, it's 26, 27, 28, 29. They got to start getting elite kids, slowly working away from the portal, more high school players. Yeah. When we come back, one last thing to talk about, and it is very important. How will Florida State address the inevitable? Tony White getting offers to go be a coach somewhere else, NFL, another DC, head coach, etc. That is next here on Locked On Seminoles. If you're trying to stay on top of your routine, whether that's workouts, long days on campus, or staying focused through back-to-back classes, hydration is where it all starts, and that's where Drip Drop comes in. When you're on top of your hydration, you'll notice everything works better: energy, mood, focus, even your skin. But getting enough fluids every day isn't always easy. That's why it's all about Drip Drop. Drip Drop is going to have flavors for you no matter what it is you like. Grape, cherry, strawberry, anything you can imagine. They're going to have something for you. Drip Drop has all the different stuff that you're going to like. Plus, right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On customers 20% off your first order. Just head over to dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard. And today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP who delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving money on every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. So let's break it down. For Florida State, it's pretty easy. You got ACC Player of the Week and duly so. That is the big-time receiver transferring in from Arizona State. You know the guy we're talking about. If you don't, you didn't watch the game. Florida State's guys across the board. By the way, Tommy Castellanos deserves a ton of credit. But Deuce Robinson was just unbelievable. 160 yards and 2 touchdowns right out of the gate. He is my player of the game for Florida State and for the nation. So, and just like Deuce Robinson delivered for Florida State, DoorDash delivers for your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday on your order. Stack it up all season long, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Every order every Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day. Only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo code GOOD through November the 18th. Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. Jeremy from Rock and Roll here is hanging out with me as we get ready to talk about a very, very important topic. I don't know if you thought about this, but I've had a conversation or two a little bit on the YouTube page. People already know it's coming. Tony White is dynamic as a play caller defensively. He's figured out which guys to play. He's put down guys on the bench that we thought were going to play a lot. Everything he touches turns to gold, Jeremy.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to ask you, like, I understand if the right head coaching job comes, there's no stopping that. There's just absolutely no stopping that. But here's my concern. If Tony White goes for a head coaching job after this year or next year, you slap him on the back and say, congratulations. It is what it is. However, they cannot lose him to another school. I'm going to go ahead and throw one out there. I'll give you a hint. This school is a program that Florida State already beat this year. And it's got a lot of money and a lot of tradition. They're not very happy with their defense right now, among other things.
Yeah.
I could see that, and I'm just using it as a barometer. Yeah. Alabama, their pockets, that's a different.
They pay him head coach money to go there.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about, them setting the bar and him getting like $4 million a year. I get it, but here's my question, and I don't know what your connections are on this. Just had the stadium renovation. You've got it's coming at some point. If you want to leave the ACC early, you're going to have to spend some cash. How do you keep assistants like Tony White? And again, I'm not like, it's a great situation to be in, but how do you match and all that and continue? It's awkward. So what do you do? Like, go ahead.
First, you get out of this conference. Because, listen, just like Alabama tried to pluck Norvell, you think they wouldn't try to pluck him? We can't afford to get into bidding wars with these powerhouses in the SEC or Big Ten, not on a yearly basis until we get out. We were lucky to get Tony White. It isn't like, wow, he's good now. Are we going to keep him? We knew the day we got – I mean, I watched – I think one of the Nebraska YouTube shows had like an 8-hour live stream the day he left, how sad they were. He's a special coach. I wish him the best. I don't know if he would leave for a lateral move for that kind of money when he knows he can get that as a head coach somewhere. And he seems to be really happy at Florida State. Like and he's a very stoic guy, no nonsense. His last 2 press conferences I've watched, he seems to really be enjoying this time. Maybe it's because he's not with Matt Rule anymore. He's really enjoying his time now. I'm not saying we get to keep him for 3 years now. But I think he's like, I love where I'm at. I can be more selective. And if FSU has to take some of that Norvell money that he's setting aside for a whatever cause, shift it to Tony, you do it.
That's kind of
don't know if I answered your question there, but yeah.
No, you did.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
I would look at it like up to $4 billion. It's a no-brainer because if you keep, let's just say they keep White for next year and a couple of teams come after, which is inevitable. Mm-hmm. Inevitable. Which is better? Spending, I assume his contract's $1.5 to $2 million somewhere in there. I haven't looked it up, but it's hefty. If you double his salary, let's just say for the sake of argument, $4 million, it's still cheaper to pay him $2 more million a year than going and getting your butt kicked because the chances of hitting 2 years in a row on a coordinator are not high.
No.
Even Kirby Smart misses. Like, it is hard to hire a guy that's not only proven but will fit your roster because you're guessing how kids are going to react to coaches. Obviously, this group hit the ground running with Tony and Gus too, for that matter. But Gus is kind of tied to this. He's friends with Mike. I think this is Gus's last job, barring him taking like a lower end job to be a head coach at a D2 school or something. I could see him doing that for fun, maybe at the very, very end, but I doubt it.
Right.
Tallahassee fits in culturally. He's with his friends and they're winning. Pretty good gig for him because he doesn't have to recruit as much. He doesn't want to deal with that stuff anymore.
And how secure is DeBoer there? I know he's got a $70 million buyout.
Oh, yeah.
It'll drop eventually. The last thing Tony needs is I go to a place where there's more pressure here than anywhere, money aside. And I got a head coach who is on the hot seat.
Right.
He's doing a good job of taking Mike off the hot seat. But that being said, he came to us knowing Mike was on the hot seat. So he's not afraid of a risk. And like you said, coaches are the most stubborn and biggest egos out there. They always say, wherever I go, I'm going to make it better. So.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it honestly wouldn't surprise me if he got some pretty good head coaching looks. I don't know if he'll get offered jobs because he doesn't have elite head coaching experience, and that matters. But there aren't many guys out there this year for like Florida or whatever. Like, they're lucky they have an alum who's now I don't know if you know this, the head coach at Washington is a Gator alum.
Yeah, I know him actually.
Oh, okay.
I can't say, okay, I've interacted with him once or twice when he was at Miami. I can't say, he wouldn't know anyway.
Yeah.
But who never played there, which is fine. That's why I think Tony, he'd love that UCLA job. If Deshaun Foster doesn't do well, he would take it in a second, and that's like going home for him. I'm sure there's a list of 4 or 5 schools he'd leave no matter what for.
Sure.
But he seems to be really happy.
That's great for Florida State. If you can't do that part, you don't keep anybody and you don't get somebody afterwards either. So good for the Noles in that regard. Yeah. All right. Last point I'll make, and you can comment on this. I'm just glad that Florida State is now in a position to have these conversations. Because last year we were like, obviously they're going to make coordinator changes and all that. We're like, when we got to early October, and we like October was rough because it was still a long way to go in the season, but nothing had happened. That was the worst month for me in terms of covering a team in any capacity. I've covered tons of teams, tons. I've covered UCF, I've covered Miami, I've covered Florida State, I've covered Notre Dame, I've covered all kinds of schools. I've never seen anything like that. So I never want to do it again. Having stated that, they're on the opposite end, but this is part of it. If teams are not coming for your coaches, that means you're not a very good program.
Correct.
So,
and Mike does a good job of embracing that.
Yeah.
And coaches have done well leaving him. I'm sure that was a selling point to him. Look at some guy named Dan Lanning now. How's he doing for me?
The Ducks might win it. Right. Really good.
But that's a selling. And look at Dillingham on offense. So I'm sure that was a sales pitch as well to Tony White when he came. Yeah. And I like to think Mike has a good eye for coaches. Yes, he screwed up a lot on the first staff, but I think he rushed to put that staff together. He took his time this time, and we see what he does when he's focused. Yeah,
I agree. Jeremy, tell everybody where they can find your work, my friend.
Oh, once again, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Always enjoy talking to you. Rockin' Noel YouTube channel. Doing some more live streams now. I've been lucky to have Brian on a couple times. Going to have him on some more. Doing a lot of college football vlogs. I did a Florida State Alabama vlog. What a time there. Had a blast there. So please check out that vlog. I'm at Tennessee this weekend for Tennessee, Georgia to take in that game. Got a few other games plans and some few more Noles games as well. So please rock the Noel YouTube channel. Please come join me for the ride and the journey. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, Brian. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. It's a lot of fun to have you on, and I appreciate your perspective. You can find Locked On Seminoles wherever you get your podcast, Podbean, Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, or anywhere else, and, of course, on YouTube. This has been Locked On Seminoles.